الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله رب العالمين قيوم السماوات والأرضين مدبر الخلائق أجمعين باعث الرسل رحمة للعالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد فيا عباد الله أوصيكم وأوصي نفسي الخاطئة المذنبة بتقوى الله فإن التقوى خير زاد لمن توجه إلى الله تعالى من العباد. Alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of His mercy, not only tells us about the guidance that we are to pursue in this life to fulfill our purpose, but He reminds us and He encourages us. And out of His mercy, He warns us in the Quran. Right? And we should reflect on that. And even when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us warnings about the consequences of our actions, or the consequences of what those before did, of those who turned away, these are all mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has chosen to deal with creation on the basis of mercy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arsh istawa. It is the all-merciful who is established on the throne of majesty. Allah has chosen, and the throne encompasses all of existence, all creation, what we know of it and we don't. All of it is compared to the throne of Allah, the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like a little ring in a great field. The throne is incomparably more vast than all of existence. But Allah has chosen to establish His authority, establish His lordship, even to establish His justice on the basis of being Ar-Rahman, being the encompassingly merciful. And that's something very important, that every time we recite the Quran, whether within the prayer, it's sunnah or fard, to recite the Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim before you recite the Fatiha. And it's not just an accident. There's nothing in our religion is merely accidental. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-wise, and His wisdom is manifest in everything we are commanded to do. We may realize the wisdom or not, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps reminding us of His encompassing mercy. If we begin reciting a surah from the beginning, it is recommended or good to say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim first in the Hanafi school. According to other schools, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is one verse of every surah. But either way, the right thing to do is to recite it. And what is it telling you? You already said it. If you're reciting Quran, you recited the Fatiha, you said Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. You already said it. And you repeated those meanings in the Fatiha, but then you're reciting a surah afterwards. You're reciting Surah Alam Nashrah, for example. You say again, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And there's no repetition in the Quran. There's no repetition in the Quran. And the ulama have written treatises on this. One of the great scholars of Damascus, Shaykh Abul Yusr Abdin, wrote an entire treatise on the apparent repetition in the Quran is not repetition, because it either has emphasis or reminder or it has some purpose. And there's a great purpose in this. And just imagine how many times we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim just in our prayer. Why? Because this is a basic reality that we need to remind ourselves. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Some of the scholars mention, and it's attributed to Sayyidina Ali ibn Abi Talib, that all the meanings of the Quran are to be found in Surah Al-Baqarah. And actually one of the scholars of the 20th century, Shaykh Sa'id Hawa, rahimahullah, he wrote a tafsir called Al-Asas fi Tafsir, the foundation of tafsir. He took this concept of Sayyidina, that's attributed to Sayyidina Ali, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and he takes back like how all the verses of the Quran, thematically, they go back to different verses in Surah Al-Baqarah. But then everything in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, is found in a comprehensive summary in Surah Al-Fatiha. But then more so, all the meanings of the Quran, all the meanings in the Fatiha, are all contained in the Basmala. And Imam Ibrahim al-Bajuri and others explain why. Because we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, this amazing statement, and we say it how many times in the prayer? If you pray a 4 rak'ah prayer, you say it twice in each rak'ah, or twice in the first 2 rak'ahs, and then in the Fatiha in the 3rd and 4th rak'ah. So you say it a total of 6 times, at least. And then if you do the sunnah before, the sunnah after, how many times we just said it? Around Dhuhr prayer. And then throughout the day, and before we begin eating, before we begin anything. What does it mean? What does it mean? We say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Firstly, interestingly, of course, this is not a complete sentence in Arabic. On its own, it's not a complete sentence. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim on its own is not a complete sentence. In English, if someone began speaking and said, by the name of Allah, merciful and compassionate, you'd be waiting for them to say something afterwards, for that statement to be complete. And there's something implicit in the Basmala, in our saying Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And this is, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful. He's generous. You just say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim because you've been commanded to say it. Allah is the most generous. He'll reward you for it. Bi'idhnillah. But there's something implicit in there. What is implicit? Because you say the Basmala to begin something. So whatever you're beginning, you're supposed to intend it when you say Bismillah. If you're about to begin eating, right? You intend, I am eating Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. If you're beginning to drive, I am driving Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. If you intend to recite a verse of the Quran, you intend, when you say Bismillah, that I am reciting this surah in the name of Allah, the merciful, the compassionate. That's what makes the meaning of it complete. Then it is a complete statement. Okay? And that's one of the adab of the Basmala, that the Basmala is not complete in meaning unless you are clearly intending. Now, you could say that, oh, well, I had something of an intention there, but that is why we should go from having dead religious lives to be alive. To be alive. How are we alive? We are alive when we are present with the meanings of our religious acts. We start by acting, by doing what we're commanded. But then we should be conscious of what we're doing. We should be present with the meanings of what we're doing. And that's a bridge to be present with the one we are turning to. With the one we are turning to, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, the first thing to do is, before the Basmala, you have in mind what you're about to do. And the Basmala itself, one of the reasons that we are called upon so much in our prayer to repeat it, is that it's supposed to be a reminder that anything that we do with intention and purpose and reliance upon Allah. With intention, with reliance upon Allah, and with consciousness of Allah. These are the three key things that the Basmala reminds us, or should remind us. Right? Because if you say, I am eating, Bismillah, you are focused on what are you doing, and the Basmala defines why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and whom you're relying upon to do it. Because what does the Basmala mean? It means, by the name of Allah means, I'm doing this action, reliant upon Allah, seeking with Allah, striving for consciousness of Allah. The Bismillah has the meaning of, I'm doing this, musta'inan billah, reliant upon Allah, taliban lillah, seeking Allah, ma'allah, with Allah. So it has these three meanings. That's why we repeat it, because anything the believer does is supposed to be done reliant upon Allah. Iyaka na'bud wa iyaka nasta'in. It is you we worship, it is you we rely upon in all matters. So the prayer is a training ground for slavehood to Allah that is supposed to carry over to everything else we do in life. Anything of significance we do, we say Bismillah. You're about to go to a job interview. You don't just stand straight and fix your shoulders and stuff. Well, you may do all of that, but you say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. But what are you meaning? I'm entering this interview, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Relying on Allah, seeking the pleasure of Allah, striving to be conscious of Allah in it. By Allah, for Allah, with Allah. And these are three meanings. And we do that, the prayer is a training ground for that. Ibn Ata'illah says, Asadu matharatun lil qulub. Prayer is a place of purification for hearts. Min adnasil ghuyub. From the vileness of distractions. Wastiftahun min adnasi dhunub, from the vileness of contraventions. Wastiftahun li abwab al-ghuyub, and a seeking of opening of the doors of the unseen, the doors of presence with Allah. That's why strive when you say Bismillah in the Fatiha before the surah. Focus on it in your prayer. That you intend, I am reciting this surah by Allah, for Allah, striving to be with Allah in it. These are three meanings to keep in mind. By Allah, relying on Him, seeking Him, striving to be present with Him. Bismillah, and then we say Bismillah, the divine name, Allah, should fill our hearts. This is a name so great that it is a common thread across religious traditions before ours. That, can you mention the name of God? And they had a point. Do you think about it? What right do you and I have to mention the name of God? To mention the name of Allah? Who are you? Just imagine, some random person shows up to the Prime Minister's office and says, I want to talk to the Prime Minister. You go to the local mayor and say, hey, I want to talk to the... Go away. That's why they gave name like the great unnamed. Even the biblical tradition, they talk about, thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. In the Judaic tradition, you can't just mention the name of God like that. But we can. We can. We can mention Allah at any time. That's an amazing gift in itself. And not just that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Uzkuruni azkurkum. Remember me, I'll remember you. Right? You can reach out, forget the mayor, the prime minister, whoever. You can reach out directly to the Lord of all creation at any time. Except, of course, the obviously inappropriate. Anytime. That is such a gift. Bismillah, in the name of Allah, in the name of the necessary existent, the Lord and Master of all creation, the one who has all attributes of perfection, who is exalted beyond any limit or limitation, the one worthy of worship alone. Bismillah, Ar-Rahman, the encompassingly merciful. The encompassingly merciful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains that in the Quran. وَرَحْمَتِي وَسِعَتْ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. My mercy encompasses all things. That's the one whose name we begin with. Everything Allah's mercy encompasses. Ar-Rahim, the particularly merciful. And to whom is He particularly merciful? To the people of faith. Why? Because the people of faith are the ones who embrace the opportunity of mercy in anything. Death is mercy for the believer. When they hear of the death of another, it's mercy for them, and they're a means of mercy for the person who died. It's mercy for them because they're reminded by the loss of others about what matters in their life. They are patient, they're rewarded. They realize someone is dead, they pray for them. The person who died benefits. So, we should take advantage of the Basmalah in establishing our connection with Allah. Don't just say it in the prayer just like that. Mean it. Before you begin, focus on what you're about to do. If you're going to start eating, I'm eating for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Say Bismillah. You bring to mind these three meanings. I'm doing this by Allah, for Allah, striving to be with Allah in that action. There's nothing mundane in this life. Why? Because the believer strives to be busy with Allah. Even in the mundane, you're dealing with people telling them, go this way, go that way, whatever work you're doing, you're sitting in yet another Zoom meeting, whatever. But your heart is supposed to be with Allah in whatever you're involved in. In whatever you're involved in. And the Basmala gives a key to that. But then when we say Bismillah, we should mention the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with reverence. It's called Lafzul Jalala, the name of majesty. The name of majesty. But then the most majestic is the one who is the most merciful. Ar-Rahman. How could you feel down if you just meant the meanings of the Basmala? That He is the absolutely merciful in all matters. And He's Rahim. He is the particularly merciful. And He's particularly, that mercy is manifest to you if in any situation you respond according to what is pleasing to Allah. Right? That's why the beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us, "Ajaban li amri al-mu'min." How strange are the affairs of the believer. Inna amrahu kullahu lahu khair. Because their affair, all of them, is for their good. وَلَيْسَ ذَلِكَ لِأَحَدٍ إِلَّا لِلْمُؤْمِنِ. And that is for no one but the believer. إِنْ أَصَابَتْهُ سَرَّاء شَكَرَ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. If pleasing things happen, they are grateful, they have shukr. And that's for their good. When أَصَابَتْهُ ضَرَّاء. And if distressful things happen, صَبَرَ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. If distressful things happen, they are steadfastly patient. And that too is for their good. And likewise, ulama say, if you made a mistake, you repent. And that too was for your good. If you did some good, you ascribe it to Allah. You ascribe it to Allah. And you thank Allah for it, as the Prophet ﷺ teaches us. مَنْ وَجَدَ خَيْرًا فَلْيَحْمَدِ اللَّهِ. Whoever finds the good, let them praise Allah. Meaning you ascribe it to the one who did it. You got the job. Did you create your smarts? Did you create yourself? Did you create your smarts? Did you create all the opportunities that connected you with that interview? No. قُلْ كُلٌّ مِّنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Say it is all from Allah. So these are the responses of the believer. And if you reflect on the Basmala, it's all there. It's all there. Likewise, anything that we begin with, yes, it's very important to remind ourselves, don't neglect saying the Basmala before you eat, before you begin anything in life, in anything significant. You're visiting your in-laws, whether things are good or bad, or unpredictable. Either way, before you enter, you say Bismillah. Why? Because you have purpose in life. Even visiting the in-law. Why are you visiting your in-laws? If we did an interview, and my parents live in a complex with a lot of Muslim houses, sometimes if you're standing in the parking lot, you see people ringing the doorbell, and there seems to be a sense of dread. They either looks like they're in dread, or depression, or uncertainty. But if you think about it, you're doing a tremendous thing. You're maintaining family ties, even if it's going to be difficult. Because if it's so bad, don't do it. If it's so bad, don't do it. Oh, I have to. No, you don't have to. But do it for Allah. Pause for that 1 moment before you ring the doorbell. Gather, what am I doing? I'm visiting my in-laws. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. By Allah, for Allah, striving to be with Allah there. And that should serve as a reminder. The ulama have written dozens of treatises, like entire books, on the meanings of the Basmala. One of the meanings they mentioned that the Basmala itself, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, if understood that if you begin something in the name of Allah, what does it entail? What are you supposed to be doing during things? What are you supposed to be doing during things? You're supposed to be remembering Allah. You say, I'm doing this action by the name of Allah. By Allah, for Allah, with Allah. How are you going to be with Allah in your action if you don't remember Allah? So what do? You visit your in-law, you don't have to be like, Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. But under your breath, you remember Allah. And that will help you speak the good, will help you not to argue, will help you avoid the wrong thing. Someone says, why don't we watch such and such haram, shameless movie? Said, you deflect the topic. Why don't we, or you figure out something else you guys could do. Or you can't do anything about it, you move to another room at the family gathering. Or you help out a little bit and you leave. Right? Why? Because if you remember Allah, you remember who you are and what you hold yourself to. You remember how you're supposed to act with good character. So the Basmala is something that brings purpose and presence, reward and meaning in all aspects of our lives. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who hold fast to this tremendous gift, both within the prayer, strive to say the Basmala with purpose. And then strive to say the Basmala. It doesn't take long. It's a moment's concern. A moment's concern. Just pause. Be purposeful. What are you doing? And the Basmala helps you define why you're doing it for Allah, how you're doing it by Allah, and which way you'll do it, which is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of the people of the Basmala, and may He open for us the doors of reward and righteousness and closeness and presence and love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our worship and in our lives. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه غفور رحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. The Basmala is something that we can recite before anything that is permitted or praiseworthy in our lives. But the Basmala is also a shield that if you can't do something by saying it with the Basmala, then it's probably a good indicator that you shouldn't do it. You're about to sit down, watch this useless series online. It's okay. Can I honestly say the Basmala before this? If you can't, then probably a good sign, don't do it. It's a good sign, don't do it. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that moment of consciousness before that action. One of the greatest moments in our lives is the moment before we do anything, whether of our acts of worship and devotion. That moment of turning to Allah. That moment of turning to Allah, the bridge to it is the Basmala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us that concern and consciousness and make us to be of those who renew and revive our faith, who renew our commitment to turn to Allah, to embrace the light of His beloved Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who began significant matters with the Basmala. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina wa Habibina Muhammad kama sallaita wa sallamta ala Sayyidina Ibrahim wa ala ali kullin wa sahbi kullin ajma'in. Allahumma aghfir lil muslimina wal muslimat والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات. ربنا إنك قريب سميع مجيب الدعوات يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين. يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث ومن عذابك نستجير. أصلح لنا شأننا كله ولا تكلنا إلى أنفسنا ولا إلى أحد من خلقك طرفة عين ولا أقل من ذلك. اللهم ارحم أمة سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم تجاوز عن أمة سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم انصر أمة سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم ادفع عن أمة سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم الظلم والقحط والجور والشدائد يا أرحم الراحمين. وردنا وأمة سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم إليك وإلى نور نبيك المصطفى صلى الله تعالى عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ردا جميلا بعواطف الامتنان ولطائف الإكرام بفضلك وكرمك يا رحمن. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وأقيموا الصلاة.
مسجد